Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Insight NFL Fantasy Podcast. And let me just start off by saying this. It's always a great sight to see Mav's face here, ready to talk some fantasy football shop. Mav, before we dive in tonight, mate, firstly, how's your week been? But more importantly, how do you think our Insight rookie draft went?
Yeah, been a busy week so far, mate. I actually was a day behind. I was at work the other day and said, "Oh, geez, they fucked their dates up in an email." And I said, "Well, no, tomorrow is actually Thursday, so I'm a day behind mentally. Pretty much probably my life, but no, the Insight Dynasty League rookie draft was actually quite interesting. You know, a few things happened. Obviously, there's a couple of trades that boys traded out of the draft to get players in, established players in, which I thought was quite interesting. But all in all, man, it was pretty stock standard. I came out of it with who was it?
Cam Ward.
Cam Ward, yes, at pick 8, I think it was. So I thought that was a bit of a steal, and then. I didn't have a second rounder, but had Sampson and Savion Williams. I got in the 5th round, which I was actually stoked with. I used quite high draft capital on him, but all in all, it was a pretty good draft. I thought it probably went a bit too quick for my liking, but it's what it is.
Yeah, I think we had a few extra keen people in that league trying to push it through, and unfortunately, with the amount of picks I had, which was nothing. That wasn't me, but I just think Cam Ward with you had there, and I think you were trying to shop the 108 too when you saw that it was Cam Ward on the block. So I thought it'd be a nice topic to bring up because Cam Ward at the 108 is a huge steal. But what was your kind of process there with trying to trade out?
Well, my team making, I had Joe Burrow as QB. I've got Russell Wilson, who's obviously just a short-term play, but I've also got Justin Fields there as well. So, for the short term, I felt like I was pretty set at QB. So just adding another one, albeit a pretty good talent in Cam Ward, I wasn't really a massive need at the time. So, there was Caleb Johnson I was pretty high on at the time as well. He actually went at pick 109, so he went one pick after my pick. But, I was seeing if I could trade back a little bit. Cam Scatterbo obviously goes early second round. So I'll see if I can stockpile a couple of picks and someone who needed a QB could move up and snag Cam Ward, and I could benefit with maybe a tight end or a running back. But again, with super flex leagues, mate, it's pretty rare that you get the best available talent in the draft. Might I add, he went pick 1 in the actual NFL draft. It's very rare that you get him at the 8th overall pick in the rookie draft. So that was far too good value to pass up on. And I'm happy to take him. I can obviously sell Russell Wilson and Fields if need be, but I'm happy to take Cam Ward at the 8.
Yeah, I think you'd be doing our listeners a disservice not taking Cam Ward at the 108. Even if you didn't need him, like you said, the value is just too good in a super flex, and if he hits, you can trade him for an absolute king's ransom compared to the guys that you could have gotten around that area. So
team making as well. I sort of do need a tight end at the moment. I'm sort of punting on. I can always buy a tight end and down the line before the season starts. Don't get me wrong, but I really like Tyler Warren, and I don't mind Loveland, but again, a crowded house. But Tyler Warren was probably the play, to be quite honest with you, for a tight end needy team. And it was a tight end premium league too, so maybe I should have taken the tight end, but letting Cam Ward slip to the 109 just feels criminal. So, but yeah, at the same time, man, I got Woody Marks in the 4th round. There's some big talk on Woody Marks there at Houston at the moment. I mean, I don't think he's going to have an immediate impact with Mixon still in the house, but Woody Marks is another one who's flying under the radar a little bit, and he can do a bit of everything too. So they're not surprised if he is their running back, next year onwards. And that I'd be shocked if that happens. But if you're drafting him in the 4th round, you can sit him in the taxi squad. You can put him on your bench and just hit him there for a while because he's the next man up. So.
Yeah, he is. And at that point of the draft, you just got to take swings. Guys that might have some opportunity if a couple of dominoes fall their way. But all in all, now we've got to look to the start of the season before we can kick off. There's going to be not much more action. Hopefully a heap of trades come through. I know I'll be pestering you throughout leading up to the drafts or leading up to the start of the season rather. So keep an eye out on that.
And also, just to go back on our draft, Ted McMillan went at 102 as well, which he's been sliding a lot. I've seen in past drafts, rookie drafts and such, and I've been seeing him go as far as a 105, 106. But in our Dynasty of Insight League, he went to 102. So
surprising.
It is surprising, but also don't hate it either.
Yep. Yeah, if you're weighing up between him and Marion Hampton, who usually goes at that 2 spot, could be very team dependent. I'd be okay with either or, really. But yeah, it's good to see a bit of a change up to the norm. But leading into tonight's episode, so we're following the trend of last week where we had our first redraft mock of the season. And if you have missed that, the link is in the YouTube section below. Go and catch that one. Mav and I, we just run through our early mock draft number 1. And we just kind of go through how our team would play out. But for tonight, we're going to be running through the current sleeper ADP for a 12-team Superflex tight end premium PPR league. And we're just going to go through round, based off the ADP, picking out our top values that we like, and kind of where they're kind of sitting in that spot. And just trying to give you guys a bit of insight with that, because I know there is a few sickos out there ready to dive into redraft leagues. I know for me, I want to wait until the start of the season for redraft, just because all the injuries that happened during OTAs. I would just be absolutely gutted having a redraft now and, your first pick getting injured before the season even started. Mav, what's your kind of take on redraft leagues going this part of the year? Are you holding out until closer to the season start, or what's your flavor there?
I feel as though if you're sleeping now, you have to cram in last second. So you might get lucky and take guys off the board. When your draft season comes around with little preparation, but also at the same time, it's also very important to notice where guys are currently going, slipping, sliding, rising. Because if they're rising up your board, then there's probably a good reason for it. So I think it's always handy just to keep an eye on values currently, because you just never know what comes around the corner in NFL fantasy. It's like a freight train. When it hits, it hits.
For sure, and it's such a long season, off season rather, leading up to the season start. So it's so many different changes that can happen during that time. But we'll jump things off. I'm just going to share my screen here so we can pull it up live. Let's see where we are. Fix that up there. Awesome. How's that looking there, Mav? That's all
looking pretty sharp.
Looking all good there. Excellent. Okay. So I'll go through the first round, just kind of letting everyone know where everyone is kind of sitting. So like I said, 12-team Superflex PPR tight end premium. We're just using Draft Sharks at the moment. These guys just collate all the current sleeper ADP and make it all nice and easy for us to present. So, and as given, Josh Allen, absolute best player in the whole world at the moment, MVP. He's at the 101 in Superflex. Then it's Lamar Jackson, Jamar Chase, Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Brock Bowers, and CeeDee Lamb to round out the first round. So I'll jump in here first. Mav, for me, it was CeeDee Lamb. I just thought he was the biggest value in this range. I know when it comes to my redraft rankings that we'll be having out within the next couple of months, I'd say. I know CD for me, he's probably going to be my wide receiver 2, which would be a little bit controversial. I'm going to have him higher than Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase being the one, having him in front of Justin Jefferson and Malik Neighbors and those kind of guys. I just think CD, his situation is just very. There's a whole lot of continuity there with Dak Prescott. Schottenheimer, yes, he's the new head coach, but he's been a part of the Cowboys there for years. I think it's just going to be very familiar. He's still the clear and out absolute alpha in that wide receiver room. Yes, they brought in George Pickens, but I think those two are just going to really complement each other nicely. I still think CD is going to get all the lion's share, and just given the Cowboys, the state of their defense also, I think they're going to be in a lot of losing scenarios, which calls for absolute garbage time production, which CD is going to absolutely eat up. So for me, in the first round, CD Lamb, because for me, I'd have him higher than Justin Jefferson. I'd probably have him at 6 and JJ at 7. Just looking at this ranking for myself. So, what do you think at CD being the first value there for us, Mav?
Yeah, I agree, mate. Especially with Justin Jefferson at the moment, obviously, again, another changing of the guard at QB. We're not too sure who that might be at this point. We think it's JJ McCarthy, but again, we're not 100% sure of that. It could be Kirk Cousins in a return, possibly, or it could be another veteran quarterback. If JJ McCarthy is not ready, or, well, ready mentally, I suppose, and obviously physically. So that'd be one to watch, obviously, there. But no, definitely at 112 for CeeDee Lamb, it's pretty safe. You'd walk out of that feeling pretty good if you get him at the 112. As you said, a lot of jump time points there for CeeDee Lamb, obviously possible. There's no run game there in Dallas at all at the moment. It's pretty much just going to be Dak throwing bombs left, right, and center. So, that's definitely one to watch there for the 112. I mean, I'd be surprised if you get if you get CD at the 112 when draft season does come around. I suspect he'll probably jump up to the 108, 109 area, personally. But Pickens, he'll take some targets off him and everything like that. But as you said, it goes hand in hand, and it will allow CD not to get doubled, really.
Yeah, and I like the point that you brought up with Justin Jefferson's quarterback situation. Yeah, JJ, he's the hotness at the moment. I saw something on Twitter saying that Justin Jefferson, he thinks that JJ reminds him of Joe Burrow, which is just, this guy hasn't even taken a snap yet. But it's good to see that hype. But we just don't know. We haven't seen Justin Jefferson get the ball thrown to him by JJ McCarthy. Yes, Kevin O'Connell is very QB friendly with his systems, but just a lot of unknowns, and we know what we're getting with CD. But leading into your value for this round, Mav, who did you have?
I had Bijan Robinson. I think he's at 107 on that list. They're predicting Bijan for a Saquon-like year. If that's the case, there's no reason why he shouldn't be top 2, top 3 on that list. I know, obviously being super flex, you probably can't afford to do it. But if you're getting Bijan at pick 7 with a possible Saquon-esque season, that's incredible. He finished as the RB3 last year in PPR based off his play, but his first 4 or 5 weeks last year were pretty bad. By pretty bad, I mean Bijan levels are bad. Is 13 points, 11 points, 11 points in back-to-back weeks. So that's bad for Bijan. That's okay for any other running back, I suppose, in the not named in the top 5. But yeah, Bijan after that exploded. He went off for 25, 23 plus nearly every week after that. So. If that explosion happens for a whole year, Bijan will probably finish as the RB1. Now, with his going to his 3rd season, I believe, into the competition now, age 23, I think he's primed and ready to go for a monster year. Penix is going to rely on him a lot. Obviously, he's now got a full year under center, so they're going to rely on Bijan a lot more than what they ever have. So I expect the numbers to heavily, heavily increase.
Yeah, and looking at Bijan's his final 4 games from week 13 to final 5 rather, 25.5, 20.10, 14.5, 24.3, and 24.8. So there was only one game that was lower than 20 points. That just kind of carried you through the championship, just having him just stabilize your full roster at that point. And I think there is a good chance too that Bijan finishes as the number 1 overall skill position. Probably not over the quarterbacks, but he could well and truly, be the number 1 guy like CMC had the year before last. How he was ahead of the wide receivers and all the other running backs. So I can definitely see that playing out. And with Penix, we know he doesn't really offer anything in the scrambling game as well, which could hopefully project to some more checkdowns for Bijan. Which we absolutely love in PPR, and we know that he can gobble up all of that receiving work when it's handed to him. So I love the pick, and I just kind of want to preface too. Yes, we are going through the values, for each round. Of course, it is all going to be based on where you are drafted, your draft position when it comes to this time. But this just kind of gives you an idea of where we value guys higher currently to where they are sitting in the ADP and where we see them as values. So. Moving on to the second round. So starting off with Malik Neighbors, we've got Ashton Genty, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Paddy Mahomes, Puka Nakua, Brian Thomas Jr., Trey McBride, Nico Collins, Devon Achane, Drake London, Christian McCaffrey, and rounded out by Lad McConkey. So I'll start off again with this one, Mav. I think Nico Collins, for me, I just have him. I have him so high at the moment, and I'd be willing to take him over Puka or even Brian Thomas Jr. Again, that might be a little bit frisky, but for me, I'm just kind of seeing it as, looking at Puka. They have just added Devontae Adams. It's not up in question who's going to be the alpha on that team or who's going to have the most production by the end of the year. Well and truly could be a race between those two. And with Brian Thomas Jr., similar instance, they've added Travis Hunter with the number 2 overall pick in this year's draft. So definitely a big competition added for him. But just back to Nico. Nico just started out so hot last year, and it's just such a shame that he got injured. His pace to start the year was just absolutely phenomenal. Looking at his year to start off, week 1, 17.7, week 2, 27.5, 12.6, 33.10, and then 15.8 in week 5, which is the week that he got injured, and he only played 13% of the snaps that game. So he was already nearly at 16 points and only on 13% of the snaps. I think he caught a long bomb for a touchdown, and then I think he might have even actually got injured on that play when it happened. But just the way that he was tracking for the year, I thought he was going to be a top 5 guy at the end. And to get him in the second round, and I think he's at like wide receiver 8 in current ADP, I think that's just a bit of a steal to pick him up there. And like I said, I'm willing to take him ahead of those other guys as well. So what are your thoughts there on Nico, Mav, and following up with your pick for this round?
Yeah, I mean, Nico was balling, wasn't he, last year before he got injured? Like, he was their offense at that point. He's constantly chucking out some, 20-plus bombs score-wise for fantasy, nearly week in, week out at that point. And then obviously the Texans suffered, and so did he himself, obviously, in fantasy owners. So, I'm expecting another sort of I'm expecting a better year from CJ Stroud. He really struggled last year. The offensive line really struggled last year, but it seemed like they beefed that up, and that should improve, and that should give CJ Stroud some more time in the pocket. And now with no Diggs in the house as well, and there's obviously no Tank Dell. I know they've got a couple of options there, Jaden Higgins and what's his name? Christian Kirk is in there as well.
Yeah, but and then Jalen Noel. Yep.
Yeah, it really should just be Nico Collins 101 in that team, and then probably Daylight, and then someone else after that. So I'm not worried at all about the added weapons they've added, but Nico Collins, with CJ Stroud, again, as I said, if you get an improvement out of CJ Stroud, then you get an improvement out of Nico Collins' fantasy scores. So they go hand in hand.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. And yeah, like you said, that O-line, yes, they moved Laramie Tunsil, which was a bit questionable to people, but I'm sure they have a plan behind it. We can't really see behind the curtains, and they did add a few pieces. Hopefully with those additions and Jaden Higgins and Noel, it kind of frees up Nico a little bit, because we did see when Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs went down, Nico just got all the coverage in the world from the opposing secondary. So yeah, hopefully it's going to be wheels up for him in 2025. But Mav, who was your target here in the second round for a value?
Oh man, it was very hard. I was just looking at it before, going, "Oh shit, who would I really like?" and everything like that. I mean, CMC was one that really sort of brought my mind to attention straight away. But it's not CMC; it's actually going to be Malik Neighbors at 13 there. It's incredible that, and it probably shows how stacked we are for our first round. I mean, I think Brock Bowers just hit the first round too, which is, fair enough based off the season that he had and the possible improvement that he might have as well. But, Malik Neighbors being in the second round, albeit being the first pick of the second round, just feels criminal. Yards after catch, he's just special. He's a downfield threat, and he's also just had a QB upgrade. I know it's only Russell Wilson, but anything's an upgrade over what he just had. Anything. So it's pretty insane that he might be. Well, it's not really insane to say, but I see a clone of Jamar Chase in there, to be honest with you. So I've said that a few times, but I genuinely see a clone there. And if you're getting Jamar Chase in the second round, you'd be absolutely laughing. So as I said, if I see a clone of Jamar Chase in Malik Neighbours, it's just value there in the second round. And there's every chance that he could be a top 4, top 3, maybe even the top 2 fantasy player in his position next season. I mean, he finished 4th last year in his position as a rookie with shit QB play. So who knows what could happen with an upgrade.
Yeah, I can see it happening. Mavin, I like the point that you laid out. If you're getting Jamar Chase in those, I think he went at the 103. If you're getting Malik Neighbours nearly a 4 round after, and you can project him to have the same upside and potentially the same outcome, absolute steal. Getting Neighbours in the second, so that could be a good pivot.
Imagine walking out of the draft, and I'm looking at 12 and 13 in that list there. Imagine walking out of the first 2 rounds of CD Lamb and Malik Neighbours. God.
Oh, it'd be hot, mate. I think if you were in a paid league, you'd be just about ready to message the commissioner with your bank details and just say, just send it through, mate. We'll just get this done early. That'll be, yeah. If Malik and Chase, that'll feed a whole lot of families indeed.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is a QB upgrade. Like it is only Russell Wilson. Might be a chance that Jackson Dart gets a little bit of game time if they start off a little bit slow and they just throw in the rookie to see what he can do. But definitely an upgrade over Tommy DeVito. Who else was there?
Danny Dimes, obviously.
Yeah.
There for a stint, but they went through 3rd stringers, 4th stringers. They went through everyone. So, yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, this whole second round is stacked, to be quite honest with you. But, you know, as I said, if you walk out of this draft with CD Lamb and Malik Neighbours as the pick 12, I think you're pretty happy with that.
For sure, yeah. You can definitely build your team around those guys. And we'll jump into the 3rd round now. So starting off with the king himself, Derrick Henry at the 301, Bo Nix, Bucky Irving, AJ Brown, Justin Herbert, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jonathan Taylor, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Josh Jacobs, Garrett Wilson, Baker Mayfield, and Breece Hall to round out this. So I'll jump in again here, Mav. And at the top, the king, Derrick Henry. I think him in the 3rd round, I think he could finish as the running back 1 overall. Let me just double check how many touchdowns he had last year. It was something absolutely obscene in that Baltimore Ravens offense. So Derrick Henry, 18 touchdowns, 16 rushing, 2 receiving. I don't think that's his ceiling either. I think he could definitely have a 20 touchdown season. He had 1,900 yards. I could see that happening again. Their offensive line is going to be a little bit better. His 2nd year in this system. I know there was talks with their offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, saying he wanted to throw the ball more to Zay Flowers and kind of get the passing game more involved. But I just can't see it with the success that they had with Derrick Henry, just getting the ball 20, 25 times a game, just running it straight up the middle. Why would you stick away with it? You know, they signed him to a 2-year extension this offseason as well, which is great to see the big man get paid. But yeah, I just can't see his production really going down. Yes, he is 31, but I know a lot of the fantasy community, he's just an outlier. You know, he's just a Yeti. He'll just keep producing until his heart stops, I think. So I think if you can potentially get the number 1 overall running back in the 3rd round, that's the area that I'm going to be going for.
Yeah, when does it stop with Derrick Henry, huh? Like, you know, everyone's been predicting a cliff for him, the downfall for him for the last sort of 2, 3, 4 years, and it's never really come. Is it ever going to come? Is he just, you know, who knows? But is it this year? Probably not. Maybe he might just retire and he's when he's, you know, sky high and go, that's it for me, and I'm leaving on a high rather than sort of, you know, sticking around till, you know, Adrian Peterson, for example, for, you know, 35, 36 years old and just, you know, topping up your super, really, I suppose. I think it was. But yeah, no, he's an incredible player with such a special player in Lamar Jackson who complement each other so well too. So, you know, they probably won't lean on Derrick Henry as much, I don't think, this year, just because they want to probably keep him fresh for the playoffs for a nice little postseason run. But at the same time, good luck tackling the king. And no one's worked that out yet.
Yeah, and he finished running back 4 on the year too. So looking at that ADP, the running back 4 is Ashton Genty, and he's going at the start of the second round. So nearly a 4-round gap between those guys, and you're getting the guy that's proven. We know what he can do, and yeah, he could just keep chugging. I think definitely this year, hopefully next as well. We'll see how this upcoming year plays out, but just can't see the big man slowing down. Mav, who was your pick here for the third round?
This one's going to be a little bit controversial, I think. And I think it's probably warranted. But at the same time, I just see incredible amounts of volume and talent here as well. But, I was going to say, I was thinking Jonathan Taylor might be a good value there, but it's not going to be Jonathan Taylor. Actually, going to be Breece Hall, I think, at this pick. End of the third round. Probably about right based off what he did last year and what he what he achieved last year. He finished the RB 16 last year, which is pretty disappointing. But that whole offense was a mess from start to finish. Aaron Rodgers was as cooked as ever. He's still a free agent. He's still waiting to sign a contract. I don't know what he's trying to achieve here and what games he's trying to play, but still a free agent. So that says a lot. And also the coaching staff was just a complete mess as well. They didn't really know how to incorporate Breece Hall into the offense, and now it's been a clean out. So, now they've got Justin Fields under center. Obviously you'd probably say a run first QB. He's not a bad passer, but primarily he does love to run the football. And Breece Hall loves the same thing too. So I think he's going to see a lot of volume, and efficiency is probably the question mark. They did invest in their offensive line in the draft early on, to try and beef that one up. So I feel as though running the football is going to be their mantra this year at the Jets. And Breece Hall a year ago finished the RB2. He's now 2 years off his ACL tear as well. So I feel as though this is going to be a bounce back year, and we'll do a bounce back segment. I imagine the bounce back players, and he will feature in that video or podcast for me. But Breece Hall at this pick is just way too much value. If he finishes the RB10, you've already got an upgrade.
Yep. Yeah, exactly right. You have, and I think you're just kind of capitalizing too on how many people bought into the Breece Hall experience in their drafts last year. I know he was going as the 1 or 2 option with Bijan in a lot of drafts, with CMC up there as well. But for him to just have that big of a fall from grace, to say, and looking at this offense, it's Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. That's pretty much it. They've added Mason Taylor, rookie tight end. I can't really see him doing too much off the gate. He's got a couple of other running backs behind him in Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen, but Breece Hall for me is still definitely the clear talent out of this one. So I love the value there for Breece Hall out of the third round. And as we look to
and this is the thing, like,
yep.
I was going to say Garrett Wilson's 2 picks above him, and I sort of don't like it.
Yeah. Do you think Garrett Wilson should be going higher, Mav, or?
No, I think he should be going lower. I don't think he's proved a lot so far in fantasy football.
Yep.
And he's now got arguably a downgrade at QB. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was a pass first QB. And look, not accurate and look pretty washed, don't get me wrong, but probably a downgrade, I think. And yes, they've got the connection from college, but again, he's a run first QB. So I'd love to see Garrett Wilson get that connection going again in the NFL with his collegiate superstar and Justin Fields. But again, I can't really boast with much confidence that that's going to happen.
I can definitely see the offense taking a big step back from what it was, and it wasn't great last year.
Sorry, I believe we've lost some sound from you.
Oh, it might be back now. Yep. Should be good. I don't know what happened there, but just looking at this round to start off, I thought it was a little bit funny. You know, we've already had 3 rounds and we haven't picked a quarterback as of yet. Given it being super flex and how valuable that position is in these formats. In this 4th round, just the clear guy for me is Drake May. I think he is going to finish so high. I'm going to have him ranked probably in the top 8, probably at the least in terms of quarterbacks. I can see him finishing as a top 5 guy, just given they've drastically upgraded the offensive line. They've added him some weapons as well. His 2nd year in the offense, he'll have a full camp being the starter, which we love to see, and hopefully that acclimates him a little bit more into the NFL. And also Mike Rabel, I think, is just a huge head coaching upgrade for Drake May. And I think the sky's the limit for Drake May. I know in Dynasty, I've got him super high. In redraft, he's going to be a top 8 guy. I think at this ADP, he's going as the quarterback 11. So, you know, a good 3 spots higher is what I'll probably kind of have him in. And looking at this, I'm going to have him above of Caleb Williams, Baker Mayfield, and probably even Justin Herbert, and also Bo Nix, just looking at that list. So for me, he's just a clear standout in the 4th round.
Yeah, right. But I wasn't expecting that from you. That's kind of interesting. Sure, I can see a lot of talent from Drake May. I really can. It's just if his receivers want to come to the party and separate is probably more of the concern that I've got. You know, Stephon Diggs is under a bit of a cloud at the moment with his antics that he's been doing, obviously off a knee injury as well. So, you know, I don't know what his situation is going to be, but it sounds like that's going to be swept under the rug and play on from what I've seen. So, yeah, look, there's been some massive talks in the rookie wide receiver they've got as well. Kyle Williams, you know, big props coming about on him. Obviously, they've got the Travion Henderson now, sort of a catching, receiving running back that can play in the slot too. So that's another weapon for him to use. So as we saw him in many situations last year, he came out on top, looking like a big dog in a small little pond with the players that he had around him. So let's see if he can elevate himself with probably an upgrade at, you know, wide receiver and running back. Pretty much a whole new skill position players around him to complement his skill set, and I really like his talent.
Yeah, and his rushing upside too. One thing that we both didn't quite touch on, just how valuable that rushing is for fantasy is just not really fair. To put it simply. So if he can rush out, and I can see him getting 600-700 yards on the ground alone. So I think that'll just boost him up overall. But Mav, your pick here for the 4th round.
Another QB for me, mate, and I think Kyler Murray is extreme value with this pick too. You know, there's everyone's massive on Marvin Harrison this year. You know, he's got good value, pick 30 on that screen right there as well. So, you know, that's one that we probably should have mentioned as well. Marvin Harrison potentially being a good piece there. Yep. But if we're thinking Marvin Harrison gets elevated and comes back into a star that we once thought we were drafting, that means Colin Murray's numbers will also improve to go along with it. So he's got Trey McBride there. He's got Marvin Harrison. He's got a bit of a cannon himself and has a lot of upside on the ground to go with it. So if you're getting him at the end of the 4th round, I think what's that, pick 47? So yeah, pretty much the end of the 4th round. If you go running back or wide receiver running back, let's say you end up with a team of CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, Breece Hall into your QB of Kyler Murray, which is sort of what I'm projecting for those late picks for you know, a round 12 for a pick 12 team. That's insane.
Yeah, that's red hot. And I think this is Kyler Murray, his value. This is at his floor. I mean, he finishes the QB 10 last year, you know, coming off that I think it was an ACL injury in 2023, and in all accounts he had a down year. I don't think too many fantasy managers were too happy with Kyler Murray throughout the year. I know his week in, week out was a bit of a roller coaster. He'd looked like an absolute stud one week, and then the next week he just kind of didn't really offer you anything. Still finished as the quarterback 10 overall. So if you're getting him in the 4th round, I think it's at the ADP of QB 12. Yeah, you're drafting him below his floor even. So
yeah,
definitely
it was a roller coaster for Kyle Murray. Like he had a stint where he had 21 points 21 points in week 7, 22 points in week 8, 5.76 in week 9, and then back to it in 28.7, and then 11-17. Like it was a bit all over the shop. Like, but the floor I suppose the floor it can be pretty low with Kyle Murray. You can get those scores of 5 and like 7, but it doesn't happen very often. It's probably going to happen once a year. But the upside is incredible. Like he can win you a fancy matchup based on his own play. I mean, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games over 25 points last season. So, and that was, as you said, pretty much nearly a down year. So, extreme value that pick, mate, to be honest. And I'm not a big Kyle Murray fan. I just like where he's going at in drafts, and I'm targeting that everywhere I can.
Yeah, it's a big value. And like we touched on with Drake May, that rushing production is just so unfair, and it's a cheat code in fantasy. So if you're getting another guy with that kind of skill set, we've seen him do it for years on years, another year removed from his ACL injury. And yeah, he's definitely going to be in a much better spot. Year 2 for Marv Harrison as well. So yeah, love that pick there in the 4th round. We'll go to the 5th now, Mav, and starting us off with the 5th is George Kittle, Tetaroa, McMillan, Tyreek Hill, Brock Purdy, Travion Henderson, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, Mike Evans, Devonta Smith, and DJ Moore. I'll throw it to you actually first here, Mav, to give you the spotlight to begin with. Who's your value pick here out of this group?
Easy pick. Very, very easy pick. Tyreek Hill is just valued this pick. Extreme amounts of value. Yeah, he's old. Yep, understand that. 31 years old. He's not going to get any better. He's not. But also he's got a lot of self-confidence in himself as well, Tyreek Hill. And look, that might hurt him at times, being so arrogant, but he's also extremely talented to go with it. You know, him and Tua, when Tua's healthy, have got an extraordinary connection. If we can see Tua healthy for the whole year, then bang, we're laughing. Tua came back last year, was a bit fragile, and didn't really know how to protect himself or what to do under pressure. Just got the ball out and just sort of, I suppose, protected himself. So, a bit more confidence in his game again, and he'll be throwing bombs to Tyreek Hill. He was widely considered as probably almost the number 1 player last season in fantasy football. Like there was a debate on Tyreek Hill. It was between him, Jefferson, Chase, and somebody else being skill position players. So now that he falls like 50 picks later, incredible. He's not that washed. So I'm expecting a bounce back here. Look, he probably should be going in 3rd rounds, to be honest with you, not 5th. If you got Tyreek Hill in the 3rd round, then maybe that's a bit of a gamble in itself. Maybe I don't think it is, but some people would probably think that. But in the 5th round, I mean, incredible.
Yeah, huge values there again. We've seen what he can do. 2022 and 2023 finishes the wide receiver 2 overall in each of those years. And of course, last year, everything that could have went wrong for the Dolphins did go wrong. Tua out, Tyreek wrist injury, and it kind of didn't really look like he was himself for most of the year. So hopefully this offense is going to have things figured out. And I'm a little skeptical of Tyreek. I don't know if he's going to be on the Dolphins. Maybe from week 6 on. I just think they're going to start out slow and they'll be looking to move him, but it could be the best thing for him. And in round 5, if you're drafting a guy with top 3 wide receiver upside, yeah, it's definitely a value in that range.
100%.
And jumping onto my pick here, Mav, for me, huge Kenneth Walker guy. He's going to be my pick here in the 5th. I just can't get enough of Cam Walker. Not worried about Charbonnet at all. I know last year when Kenneth Walker was healthy, he was just the clear dominant guy and he was producing at a high level. Finished within the top 14 running backs of points per game too when healthy, which is what we love to see. And you're getting him at the back end of the 5th round, mind you. I'd take him ahead of Travion Henderson. Just looking at the guys on that list ahead of him now. Joe Mixon, only one spot, but I'd take Kenneth Walker, Chase Brown, James Cook. Yeah, I'm going to take Ken Walker over all of those guys. I think the fit with Clint Kubiak coming in, and one of the first things Clint Kubiak did, new offensive coordinator for the Seahawks, in his first conference, he was just all over Ken Walker, just giving him his flowers, saying how well he's going to fit in with their outside zone run scheme. And I think it's going to be magical. The only thing that of course, with Kenneth Walker is his health being the issue. But if he can put a full season together, hell, I'd take 14 or 15 games of production, and I'd be happy getting Ken Walker at this rate because, yeah, I think he's just going to be an absolute smash guy who can just give you big weeks in and out in that range. So what do you think of Ken Walker, Mav? I know we've talked about him previously. You were a Charbonnet fan to some extent. So how do you sit now?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Charbonnet fan. I don't mind Charbonnet. But also I just don't know what this offense is going to look like. I don't know what Sam Darnold's going to look like. I don't know what Cooper Kupp's going to look like. Kenny Walker is always up and down and always injured. Is always probably been his downfall is staying healthy. But arguably when he's out there, he produces as well. So I probably expect them to lean on Kenny Walker probably a bit more this year. Can his body handle it, or they give Charbonnet more carries and sort of keep, maybe give it a bit of a committee to a degree. I'm not sure. I would probably more lean to a committee personally if I had to put money on it. But we'll see how that goes. But if he gets the full workload, we've said it before, he dominates. And look, yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm 50-50 on Kenny Walker. I'll need to see more information come out of training camp before I decide on where I stand with Kenny Walker.
Yeah, it's gonna. And I don't know, for me, I've had him a lot in the past in all the leagues, and yeah, of course, the injuries can let you down. Definitely ebbs and flows being a Ken Walker owner. But yeah, we'll just one to watch. It might even be a good thing if they take off a bit of the work for him and give it to Charbonnet. So yeah, just one to plan out. But
I think he gets goal line carries.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had like 8 touchdowns last year within 10 or so games when he was healthy. So it's definitely there in his role. Leading into the 6th round here, Mav, I'll let you start off, but I'll just read out the 6th for us. So it's starting with Alvin Kamara, Travis Hunter, Chuba Hubbard, Quinshon Judkins, Dak Prescott, Xavier Worthy, Trevor Lawrence, Rome Odunze, Devontae Adams, RJ Harvey, Zay Flowers, and TJ Hawkinson. Who's your value in the 6th?
Look, I'm going to probably roll with Alvin Kamara again. I'm probably going down the old school path, but the offense was a mess last year, with Derek Carr and without Derek Carr. Yes, they started on fire to start the year off, and people were thinking, oh shit, maybe the Saints might actually be okay. I think they started 2-0, 3-0 maybe, and they were belting teams. They actually belted the Cowboys in week 2 on the Cowboys' home turf, and it doesn't happen. Doesn't happen very often down there in Dallas where they get belted on their home turf, and it did happen. But you did also see when Derek Carr wasn't there, they had the backups and the backups of the backups, and it was just a shit show. Kamara was still pretty effective. He was still seeing a lot of dump offs. He was seeing a lot of carries. I'm still not sure if there's an RB2 in that house. They got Clyde Edwards-Helaire now, and they've also got who's that running back? It was I can't remember.
Devin Neal. I know they drafted him. And then Kendre Miller.
I can't think of his name. Anyway.
Yeah, Kendre Miller. I think you're talking about.
Kendre Miller's the one. Yep, that's the one. And like they haven't really got an established RB2, so I think Alvin Kamara should get a bulk of the work. But he could also get traded too at some point, which if they're going shit house, then they probably will move on Kamara. And look, wherever Kamara goes, he's going to dominate. He's got the skill set to dominate wherever he goes. So, receiving upside, rushing upside. He's the full package. He's getting on an age a little bit too, but we're up to round 6.
Yeah.
He's your RB2 in your roster, so you're sort of leaning on him, maybe even RB3, depending on how you draft. It's extreme amounts of value, and I still think he'll still average 12 points a game, just based off dump offs, really.
Yeah, I mean, this is his offense. He's the clear number one guy in this offense for me. And looking at last year, he missed 3 games and was injured throughout a couple of others, and still finishes the 9th overall running back in PPR. So again, you get picking him up at the 6th. You're drafting him well below his floor, I think. So yeah, definitely a clear value for me. And sticking on the trend of older players, Devontae Adams, he's my pick here for the 6th round. And shout out to DFAB, who couldn't join us tonight. This is going to be his guy. Has him as a top 10 wide receiver, I think, for the year. And I'm kind of sipping on the Devontae Adams juice a little bit myself. I think him coming in, I know it's all hype this point of the year, and seeing what the Rams are saying about Devontae and see Coach McVay talk about him, I think he's going to have a great year. Yes, he's 31, I think, going on to 32 this year, but he didn't miss a beat last year at the Jets with a much lower, I guess, kind of QB and Aaron Rodgers compared to what he has now at Matt Stafford. Yeah, Stafford's older as well, but he's still got it. He hasn't missed a step either. And if Devontae, if he can jump in there, get 25, 26% of those targets behind Puka, even if he's playing second fiddle, I just can't see him not outproducing this ADP in the 6th round. And I think it's plain and simple. Devontae, I don't know, he hasn't missed a beat, and I don't think that's going to happen in 2025.
No, it's not. Extreme amounts of value here. I keep saying that, but that's what the show's all about. So, I guess he has had a QB upgrade. Going from Rodgers, going from O'Connell to Rodgers to now going to Matt Stafford, who complements 2 weapons quite easily. Definitely an upgrade. And look, DFAB had a big call. Top 5. He reckons that Devontae's going to finish as a top 5 wide receiver for next year. Look, I think that's ambitious. Don't get me wrong. But what are we up to? 6th round. He's going to finish top 15, top 10. Not out of the rounds of possibility.
Yeah, I think top 15 guaranteed. Honestly, when we put our redraft rankings together, I think we're all going to be pretty high on the Devontae Adams bus. So round 6, this could just be looking at these picks, this could be the most valuable round, I think, that we've had so far, looking at that. So we'll put round 6 behind us, and leading into round 7, we start off with JJ McCarthy, DK Metcalf, David Montgomery, Justin Fields, Caleb Johnson, George Pickens, Chris Olave, James Conner, Jameson Williams, Tyler Warren, Jordan Addison, and Michael Penix Jr. I'll jump in here first quickly, Mav. Caleb Johnson, for me, he's just the value here. I think given the amount of running backs that have already gone in this position and the state of the running back position at this stage in the draft, I want to take a big swing on Caleb Johnson, rookie going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just looking at the opportunities that Najee had last year. I mean, Najee is vacating 263 rushing attempts. And I know Jalen Warren's there. I know Caleb Johnson's a rookie, but Jalen Warren, he's smaller. He was injured last year. I can't see him taking on anywhere near that amount of work. And if Caleb Johnson gets running, I can see him slotting in there as a like-for-like replacement with Najee. So I think, his talent, he's just going to be an absolute steal here in the 7th round.
And rookie running backs as well, mate. Look, they get used, and they get used very quickly, especially with high draft capital. He's going to have an immediate impact. He could see 15 or 20 carries in his first year quite easily. Solid offensive line. We don't know who the QB is there at the moment, so that could be in his benefit. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, rookie running backs generally with high draft capital have an immediate impact, and they get flogged early on in their careers as well. So, 7th round we're up to now, to get a rookie running back there who has bell cow ability and potential is pretty cool. I'm in on that.
Yeah, for sure. And in an offense that they just want to run in Pittsburgh. Yes, we don't know what's happening in quarterback. Probably even more signs pointing towards Caleb Johnson just getting more of the work to begin with. But yeah, absolutely love that spot. Who was your pick here in the 7th, Mav?
I've actually followed suit with the team. I've gone with DK Metcalf at this pick. Again, yeah, we don't know who the plays at QB. Again, I said before, we widely suspect it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. It might not be. It could be another veteran. Could be Kirk Cousins. He's still available I don't think he'll be worth much. I think he's still contracted to Atlanta at the moment, but if they want to make the move, they can easily get that done. Or any other veteran QB. They're not going to, well, they could go Mason Rudolph. I'd be shocked if they did, but I doubt it. But no, they've invested highly in DK Metcalf. Cost them a 2nd round pick, day 2 pick, which was interesting. At the time, everyone thought, oh, shit, that's a bit of a steal. And they paid him a bag to go along with it too. So I expect there's no George Pickens there anymore. There's no one else. We've always said Robin Wilson might be a contender for a breakout year, possibly. And we'll have a breakouts or potential breakout episode down the line too when it comes down to draft season. But I feel as though the volume here should come to DK Metcalf when the ball hits the air. 10 targets a game, 8 to 10 targets a game. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Yeah, I love it. And I think I'm getting vibes of when Arthur Smith was at the Tennessee Titans with AJ Brown and Derrick Henry and Caleb Johnson and DK Metcalf now at Pittsburgh. I think there is similarities there. They're going to get most of the lion's share of the workload there. Love the play, and DK could have 10 receiving touchdown upside with the amount of work that he's going to get there. But we'll keep this train moving, Mav, and into the 8th. We start off with Cam Ward, Cortland Sutton, Jalen Waddle, Isaiah Pacheco, Jerry Jeudy, Bryce Young, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Tua Tagovailoa, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, and Chris Godwin. I'll start off here again, Mav, for us. Yeah, you picked Tyreek Hill in the 5th round, I think it was. I'm going to take his running or his wide receiver mate partner in the 8th round in Jalen Waddle. And I just think with just how much of a shit show that offense was last year, the lack of consistency with Jalen Waddle, especially with the injuries that he was dealing with throughout the year, it was always a bit of a head scratcher. I know, just following it, a Dolphins game would just start. It's been a few snaps and it's already question marks coming up for Jalen Waddle. He's left the field or he's getting evaluated or something along those lines. He's just too much of a talent here in the 8th round, I think. And like I said, if Tyreek gets traded, Jalen Waddle, this is going to be his room to dominate. And even if Tyreek doesn't get traded, those two, we see what they can do together if Tua is healthy. So I'm going to take the absolute swing here and bet on the talent and the upside and Jalen Waddle in the 8th.
Yeah, agreed, man. And Jalen Waddle, sort of a bit of a fall from grace to a degree. But talent-wise, it's unquestionable what talent that he's got. As you said, always sort of limping off, and injuries have definitely affected him in the last 2 years. I mean, his rookie year, first 2 years, we're thinking, shit, this guy's going to be a bona fide top 5 or top 10 player in his position at worst.
Yep.
And has drifted a lot now. And as you can see, he's going in the 8th round. Are we up to?
8th round. Yeah.
Yeah. So look, I agree. And at this pick, you're looking for upside as well as production. And if you're picking for upside, then bang, Jalen Waddle's still young. He's still in that window for improvement. And look, it's probably expected that he does improve to go along with. Otherwise, he might just be a bust. But I like the play. And look, it just hinges on the offense being healthy. All factors, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big question mark, that Miami offense. But if all things click like they did the year before last, yeah, could be some huge values coming out of the Miami offense. Who's your pick here in the 8th, Mav?
There's a lot of good picks here. I was looking at Cortland Sutton. I was looking at Isaiah Pacheco. I was really down on him, but now I'm sort of back on it at his pick. I also like Travis Kelce at this pick. I like Swift at this pick. I like Godwin at this pick. But I'm going to roll with my man Isaiah Pacheco at this pick, man. I think it's pretty insane that he's going in the 8th round. He was going like early round 3 last year. I'm thinking from memory. He was sort of around the Derrick Henry mark last year, and obviously Derrick Henry exploded, and Pacheco went down with injury after week 1 and broke his foot, never got back. And look, I actually thought they'd move on from Isaiah Pacheco this year. I thought they'd draft a running back at the draft. They didn't. They haven't done that. They've kept Kareem Hunt in the house. They've kept Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco's just got a contract year too, so he's got something to prove. If it's not at the Chiefs, it's somewhere else around the league to get paid. So I think at this pick, he's probably your RB3 on your roster at this point in time. Maybe on your bench, maybe he's your first man up on your bench, depending on how stacked your wide receivers are. If he's bench coverage, Isaiah Pacheco at this point, again with a healthy offseason, which all reports are he's back to full health and flying. It's just extreme value. Now, I would like to see what this offense looks like or what they're going to do with Kareem Hunt. It might just be Pacheco getting majority of the work and Kareem Hunt just chipping in whenever he can, just for a change of pace, maybe just take a bit of steam off Isaiah Pacheco. But, if he's going to come into a role where he's going to get 15 to 20 carries a game, which he was doing last year for that one game, I suppose, in the year before, then, God, that's starting potential.
Yeah, he looked so good in those first couple of games too to start off last year. He was getting everything. Just looking back at it, he had 15.8 points week 1 and then 16.10 in week 2, and he only played 66% of the snaps before he went down. And if he's anywhere close to what he was, you could definitely tell last year after the injury he just wasn't himself. It is a bit concerned. What was that? Sorry?
He wasn't fit.
Yeah, he wasn't fit. Yeah, and I know Tony Pollard, he experienced the same kind of injury, and he'd come back the year after saying he wasn't ready to go until about week 12, week 13. So was Pacheco brought back a little bit too early? Probably, but I think Chiefs were just, as they were making that Super Bowl run, and they just wanted to get their guys fit and up to pace as soon as they could. So, yeah, in the 8th round, could be a top 12 running back. I can definitely see that as his ceiling heading into this season on a good offense, a lot of touchdown upside. If he is healthy, but that, of course, this later in the round, you got to take your shots.
He's actually circled on my draft boards at the moment, just being extreme value because, again, there's not a lot of competition there for that spot. So, Mahomes probably needs – well, you saw last year in the playoffs, they were dying for a running back that could actually produce, and then they moved away from the running backs. So, Mahomes needs something, and they didn't address it in the draft. So I'm fully expecting Isaiah Pacheco to bounce back. I really am.
Yeah, I love it. And they did. I think they added 6th or 7th round running back, but I mean that's what Pacheco was. But they know Pacheco on this offense. They know what he can do. Just hopefully he's healthy. Leading into the last round that we're going to be covering here tonight, Mav. I'll get you to kick us off on this one, but I'll just read out for the audio listeners. It starts off with Jonnu Smith, Tyrone Tracy, Matt Stafford, Tony Pollard, Colston Loveland, Brian Robertson Jr., Brennan Ayuk, Sam Darnold, Travis Etienne, Ricky Pearsall, Calvin Ridley, and then Geno Smith. So who is your pick here in this round, Mav, as your value?
Ricky Pearsall to the moon is my pick. And look, I've been high on him well for a while now, ever since he came back and actually produced on the field. It's like, you got Brendan Ayuk there as well, who is the wide receiver 1 on that team. But again, coming off a knee, we're not sure what that's going to look like if he's healthy, ready to go. Probably not. We'll soon find out in the later months. But Ricky Pearsall has breakout potential in a Brock Purdy offense, who just signed a mega deal. He brought a lot of life to this offense when he came in for those last few games back from injury. Looks like he just wanted to rip the game apart, and look, was held back by snap percentages, and obviously they had a limit on him and on his workload. Don't get me wrong, but snap count as such was the words I was looking for. But he'll have no snap count to start this year, and they'll just let him loose. His first round talent, another toy for Shanahan to play with. And look, maybe he might be using a Debo role, but a better sort of version of Debo. Maybe you might see some carries along the way, because Shanahan loves using wide receivers to get some carries as well, some jet sweeps, and he's electric on the ground. So I would not be shocked if he gets more interesting plays and fun plays to get him going, because there was one play, I think it was against the Lions, I saw in the last week of the year, and he just exploded. He hit the corner and he was gone. He absolutely smashed his opponent, burnt him, left him 10 yards behind, and hit the corner of the end zone touchdown. So incredible talent. Let's see what this looks like for a full year.
Yeah, huge play potential in Ricky Pearsall. And like we spoke about in the last show, he could well and truly be the number one wide receiver for this offense coming at the gate. We know last year he got shot. Not many players come back from an injury like that as quick as what
there is in this round. Brian Robinson.
Oh, well, exactly. There you go. A little bit of similarities. If I was an NFL player, gee, I'd hate to be going in the 9th round of ADPs, because you're a gunshot risk. But yeah, I'm willing to throw out the majority of the season for Ricky Pearsall and just give him the benefit of the doubt after coming back from that injury, and just seeing how strong he performed at that back end of the last 2 or 3 weeks of the year. Very, very promising signs for 2025. But I'll jump in here for our last pick of the evening. In the 9th round, I think for me, Geno Smith. I'm just so high on Geno Smith coming into 2025. I'm more than willing to punt the quarterback position. Say if I get Drake May in round 4, I'm happy to wait until round 9 to get if I'm getting Geno Smith in this area. It was a toss-up for me between Matt Stafford and Geno Smith. I was just going to take the lesser, so the more better value in terms of ADP perspective. But Geno, this is about, I think it's around the 26, 27 quarterback off the board in terms of ADP. There is no way that he does not outproduce that at the Raiders. I think with Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, Jack Besh, Ashton Genty, I'm sure he's going to be used a lot in the passing game as well. I think the offense is going to take a huge step forward. They poured picks into the offensive line. I think back-to-back picks in round 3. Yeah, I just think he's well and truly going to outproduce this ADP of a early QB3. And yeah, I can see him finishing as a top 15 quarterback in this year in that offense.
Yeah, gunslinger. That's all I can say with Geno Smith. He's just a gunslinger. Could be detrimental to interceptions and pick sixes and whatnot, but it also at the same time, long balls, 40, 50-yard touchdowns to go along with it too. So, just an absolute gunslinger that will produce in fantasy football. Not afraid to throw it. Has some weapons. I know Brock Bowers will be, well, it's an upgrade for Brock Bowers again, as we said before,
sure.
at QB. But Jacoby Myers is okay. Jack Besh is probably the one. Jake Besh, I say, is the one that I'm intrigued on the most as a rookie wide receiver. I think he might be pretty handy in this offense, and that just means if that's the case, then Geno Smith is going to be already better than a QB 26. He's definitely going to be, definitely top 15 is probably where it ends. But if he, he won't be top 10, I don't think. But top 15, if he's a QB2 in Superflex leagues, then cool.
Yeah, that'll wrap us up there for our round by round up to round 9 for a Superflex 12-team ADP value pick. Just to say, if you are one of those sickos, and hey, no judgment here, we are one of them. If you've got a redraft coming up, hopefully this show here tonight has helped giving you a bit of insight on some good value picks in each round. Some guys that in these rounds you can wait on. If you don't go quarterback early, there's guys with value there to pick out, and also watch out for round 6 with Alvin Kamara and Devontae Adams. Definitely have those guys circled when it comes to redraft season. But before we sign out here, Mav, any last takes from you following these 9 rounds?
No. Look, I'm sure these rankings will change a lot between now and drafting season. As you can see on the right hand side there, that they sort of already have to a degree already. Lots of movements there, and once training camp fully starts, and I guess training camp's a bit of a tease to a degree because everyone's training the house down and everything like that. But training camp's probably more when we actually get to see some action, OTAs and stuff like that. But they don't get much coverage in terms of for fantasy football as such. But once training camp rolls along and preseason rolls along too, that's when draft season comes along, and we probably know their true value by then, and who's flying high and who's flying low. So what their role looks like, where they're lining up in training camp. Are they on the 1s or the 2s? I suppose is also another big thing too. But I mean, guys that we've mentioned are going to be the 1s. But guys like Ricky Pearsall as well. I mean, see where he lines up in training camp would be another good one. But we'll know more in the coming months, obviously, with what happens here. But it's just a good early indication to see where these guys are falling. Especially if you've got any startup dynasty leagues, I suppose, as well. I mean, these would have a similar value, not obviously identical, but very similar. If you just keep your eye on redrafts along the way, just to make sure you got your eye in and sort of keep up to date with it all, I think it's pretty important.
For sure, you've always got to stay active, stay fluent, be ready for these positions to change throughout. It's a long off season. We're going to be with you guys week in, week out, leading up to there, and we're just going to be ramping up the content the closer that we get to the season start. So, if you haven't already, please feel free to check out our Patreon. It is free for the NFL side of Insight Fantasy Sports. We're going to be dropping our rookie rankings within the next month or two, and then our redraft rankings to follow. So make sure you're staying tuned to check that out. We'll be back next week from myself and Mav. We'll see you guys then.
Ciao.